The trade deadline has come and gone. Hey, how did your team do? So let's talk about it. We'll talk about all the deals. Pucking around starts now. Hey there, everybody.
Traded, yay!
Hey everybody, welcome to Pucking Around's trade deadline special. We're going to talk about the trade deadline that just happened. We're recording Monday night, so what happened 3 days ago, 2.5 days ago? There were a couple of surprises there. We were actually arguing a little bit about that before we came on, which was the bigger surprise. We'll let you guys decide that. Leave us a comment in the comment section about anything we talk about here, your opinions on those things, and I'll introduce you to who's here with me. As usual, I'll go through. Now, you know what? Our special guest tonight from the Hockey Writers, I guess E-Magazine, and that's in the middle there. That's Ryan Szporer. Hey, Ryan, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Very good. Ryan, by the way, is a Habs fan because he's from Montreal and he's got brains.
I try to stay objective, but
try to. But you write, you cover the Habs for the Hockey Writers, right?
I do.
Yes. All right. Up in the other corner that way from me is Alex from the Flyer Are Gonna Flyer Up podcast on Don't Puck with Media.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Below him is Matt, my co-host over on Hab Normals on Talking Habs.
Salut.
Bum. Salut. And on the other side, below me there, Mr. Sunshine, below me there, Cam from High Brew Nation podcast, also on Don't Puck with Media.
What's going on, everybody? Check out episode 34. Oh, that's not nice. Oh my God, we got that on repeat. Yo,
that time was perfect. I'm sorry, I had to.
That's so mean. Being bullied. Come on, guys. I just had a traumatizing weekend. Give me a break.
All right,
I've been drowning in ice cream. Shit.
As Cam was going to say, check out episode 34 of High Brew Nation. We've got special guest Billy Jaffe of the NESN network, and it's a really good episode.
Did
really
you just say NESN?
Nesson.
I wasn't going to say it.
Okay, I'm Canadian. I'm Canadian. I assume. Wait a second. I assume that stands for New England Sports Network.
You also think correct. Z is pronounced Z.
Okay, but then isn't it NESN? I
Yes,
know it's Nesson.
but it's
I got it in my life.
Okay.
No.
Holy shit! We just
American bullies. What do you expect? All right, so Nesson,
problem here.
Billy Jaffe. So check that episode out. It was a really good, fun episode. Billy Jaffe is a great guy, great dude. I never heard of him before. We had him on High Brew Nation. Great dude. Gotta say.
Yeah, it was
all right.
Fun time.
All right, gentlemen. What are we going to talk about tonight? We're going to talk about the trade deadline. Where do we lead off? Did anybody actually remember to bring a list of all the trades, or should I go look that up so we can?
There's a whole bunch of them. Like it's
a lot of trades.
Yeah.
I forgot to load it up on my other.
How about we start with a big one? How about the chaos that happened in Carolina with the Mikko Rantanen trade?
Oh, well, lead off with one of the big ones. Go ahead.
May as well start it big, right?
Yep.
It's not something Alex hears very often, so might as well.
Cam, you should look in a mirror for that, sir.
We haven't done a Simpin in a while, so I'm just trying to catch up for lost time.
All right, I got them loaded up now. So
I gotta say, I want to just say this about Carolina. I think they handled this entire ordeal with the Mikko Rantanen saga so poorly. Now, this is completely subjective from the actual return they got. I'm just talking big picture itself. So it was reported today, apparently, that Rantanen came up to Rod Brindamore after said trade from Colorado, and he said there's 4 teams I'm going to play for and potentially get extended by, and you're not one of them. How do you go ahead and make that trade to begin with without at bare minimum, verbal agreement for a potential extension in mind, and take the risk that you did, giving up a guy like Marty Necas, who is having a career year, and then another good bottom 6 guy in Drury, and just leave your roster completely bamboozled like this. I just don't understand how they could have pulled the trigger on this 2 months ago when they made the trade originally and left themselves in this type of predicament.
I would like to think from their perspective, like any Stanley Cup contending team, in theory, they were going for it in their minds, trying to acquire a pending unrestricted free agent, a superstar talent, hoping that he would mesh with the team and maybe win that superstar talent over in the hopes of re-signing them in the offseason. I'll agree with you in the sense that it was less than ideal, but and it didn't work out in terms of his chemistry with the team. But I think under the circumstances, speaking of what they got in the end, it's not as horrible as people are making it out to be, in my opinion.
I just want to add this: isn't Sebastian Aho supposed to be like his best friend? So I think I think that's a fair assumption on the team's part to say, yeah, we can win this guy over. You know,
I mean, that's a big risk, though. I mean, you give up Marty Necas. I mean, there was also like issues with him in the summer anyway. So they had to scrounge to make sure that he was signed, and they ended up trading him. So, I mean, yeah, you give Colorado some really strong power, in my opinion, and you get Mikko Rantanen. I just think it was careless on the Carolina GM not to consider, the future of that. But he did end up turning it around and flipping it to Dallas. And, you got a couple first-round picks for it. You got, Logan Stankoven?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's not bad. It's in terms of, like, a return. But the way I look at it is, if you're in win now mode, because the last Stanley Cup they won was 2006 with Rod Brind'Amour, I believe, on the team.
Yeah, 2006.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in win now mode and you're afraid Freddie Anderson is not going to be like that guy, you still have Kochetkov, who's amazing. But your defense is getting older; they're not getting any younger. A lot of your veterans, I feel like, are wanting a cup and. Mismanaging that situation. I'm on the side of like I maybe would have risked almost losing him for nothing if it meant getting a cup to satisfy those players. Because right now I think they're actually weaker than before.
Well, I think that's fair, but I'd also like to point out that it's not like Rantanen, like I said before, he wasn't working out in terms of his production with the Hurricanes.
True.
So I think at that point, if you're the Hurricanes, you have to try and pivot and see, okay, maybe this isn't working out as well as we thought it might. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of like independent of whether or not he resigns, just in the here and now, this clearly isn't working. Let's try and salvage something from this. And I think they did a very good job salvaging what they did.
I mean, if you look at it as what they got back in Stankoven, the first round pick, I don't know what the rest was. So for Marty Necas for that, if you look at it and analyze that, that's not that bad in the long run.
No, future-wise, it's great.
Yeah, it's just that for the here and now, their chances to win the cup this year, which people were talking about with Rantanen, they're probably, got one of the best chances. You got to think that is out the window. And for that, yeah, I mean, does this affect their window down the road, right? Maybe this actually keeps their window open a little longer, having Stankoven and the draft pick. Then,
well, it depends completely when that draft pick is. You know what I mean? Because I don't think they have anything in the pipeline. It also depends if they can re-sign Taylor Hall.
They already did.
They did already.
Oh, yeah. They did. They did offer the extension. Okay, I didn't know if that actually went through. So that's my apologies.
Taylor Hall isn't the player he used to be. I don't think he's as relevant in this argument.
No, but he's a good middle six. But he's a good middle six board.
He's probably like middle six production at best at this point of his career.
Veteran experience.
The issue with this whole thing, just to me, is Marty Necas still had his term. You had 2 years. You just signed the guy for a 2-year deal, but you didn't have to make that move now. It just felt like a desperate move in messing with chemistry that didn't need to be messed with now. I get the point of wanting to make an all-in push and potentially trying to convince the guy to come over and maybe sign long-term. But the fact that before I go on with this point, I find it incredible too. Mikko Rantanen found a way to piss off 2 fan bases royally with this whole situation. He pissed off Colorado for taking the same exact deal that he got offered in Colorado and then in Dallas, and then he managed to piss off the Carolina fan base for how the whole situation just handled in general. So that's going to be 2 places that are going to probably boo him for the rest of his career.
Cry about it.
Doesn't look like the kind of guy that cares.
I don't really think he cares.
I don't think
he does too. I just find that impressive. But the whole point of this really comes down to I just don't understand why they felt why take the risk in this situation if you already had a good
why not
with your team.
Well, yeah, when a player like Mikko Rantanen becomes available, you
take a breath.
Like, granted, again, if any player of that caliber, like, and they're going into being an unrestricted free agent, I think it's just unwise not to have an extension an extension in place when you trade for him. But at the same time, when someone like that becomes available, like I mean, I would
take
do that
the risk.
Carolina did. Yeah, I mean that's a risk that's more than acceptable to take. I do think
I don't know that I agree with.
I may have done that if it was UFA for UFA. I could understand it more, but. With a guy with at least some level of term, I don't understand.
No, it's not. No, I'm sorry. Mikko Rantanen is leagues better than Natchez, and I don't even think it's close.
He is a better player. That's not the argument, though. Why mess with chemistry if it's working?
I think part of the issue is that Natchez is a 0.5 point per game player in the playoffs. So he's not as effective in the playoffs as during the regular season. So if you're the Hurricanes and you've got a formula that has proven, to not work, you're looking for something different. And Rantanen being a superstar talent was probably, in their opinions, a risk worth taking. And I don't fault them for that. I'm sure there's plenty of fault to go around in the minds of the Hurricanes fan base. But, I mean, if as an objective outsider, I think it was a worthwhile risk, personally.
I'm on the side of Alex. So.
Before you guys go, another thing with Mikko Rantanen, unlikely why it didn't work out. If you just look at the structure of Carolina and how their play style is versus the Dallas Stars versus the Colorado Avalanche, Rod Brind'Amour tends to play a more defensive-minded style, two-way style game. Rantanen, it does not, I don't think, fit into that as well as he did in Colorado, where they're all gas, and Dallas is all gas. No break.
So that just adds why that risk then?
Right. Doesn't that speak to the fact that the GM didn't do his job in making this trade of Carolina?
Postby just blew this, in my opinion.
No, because I think one of the problems in Carolina last year in the playoffs was that they couldn't get any scoring. And so I think adding that level of talent, a known scorer, to them was worth the risk. They knew what they needed.
Again,
and I think Ryan put it perfectly. Like, look at Natchez, a 0.5 points per game. You need it. You need your top guys to perform. You need Svechnikov to get going. Aho, all of them.
One counter argument I want to make about that: Martin Natchez played a lot on the third line in the playoffs. He wasn't getting the minutes that he was getting now. They trusted a lot more from a top 6 perspective, and he has been showing.
That doesn't matter because a lot of people and a lot of analysts will argue, and Ryan might have my back here, and you can say, like, a lot of times when you win Stanley Cups, you actually go through your secondary scoring.
I mean, that's a fair point. Oh, yeah. That is a very fair point. But at the same time, Natchez hadn't gotten the opportunity to play with more consistent line mates than he would have in prior years. He was always sticking on the third line with KK, for example. That's
fucking Kotkaniemi.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's not talk about Kotkaniemi.
Yeah, exactly. You guys are keep just hearing those 2 letters.
Yes. I think I would like to make this point that the guy should have done his research to make sure you're kind of tearing a team that had a really good shot at a Stanley Cup, right? Do nothing, and this is a cup contending team, right? I don't think the risk of tearing that apart and taking what you have and then taking that risk on a team like that, a team that maybe is a little bit outside of the cup contender and wants to get inside. I can see a team like that taking a chance like they did. I don't see why Carolina would when they were considered a top cup contender.
Well, what did they change relative to the last 2 seasons, though? Like, I'm just saying, like, they didn't win the cup since 2006, right?
True.
And let me look at...
I don't know. I just think a team that is that close, that's a huge risk. And I don't know. It's the bad thing that happens with the risk happened is that it backfired. And I don't think they're a cup contender at this point, are they?
I don't
No.
think they are this year.
No.
But when you have the opportunity to acquire a player who's like a 30-point per game guy in the playoffs, for Christ's sakes, like
I mean, yeah.
again,
you,
I think
you
I
gotta
think
understand
the
the risk Ben. Yeah, I'm with Nordy. I'm sorry.
Nordy, did you just say
like,
he's a
Miko
30
Randon's been one of the
point
best
guy?
playoff performers of like the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Did you just say he's a
It's
30
ridiculous.
point per game guy?
No, he said a 30.
Yeah, hyperbole,
point
but I mean, you
scorer.
know, if you look at his playoff stats,
That's
it's
different.
ridiculous. He's like a 3-point, like not hyperbole. He's like a 3-point per game guy in the playoffs. Like, it's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
he's nuts. He's nuts. But look what he did with. Look what he's doing with right now with Dallas. Like
He's played one game.
popping.
But 5
Yeah,
games
that team,
on there.
yeah,
He's
that
played
top
one
9
game.
is scary.
Yeah.
Like if
That is
Dallas
it.
doesn't
No,
win
that
the cup
Dallas
this
team
year,
is
that's a colossal
loaded.
failure in my opinion.
I think it's fair to call the Stars like the front runners at this point.
I agree there.
Oh yeah,
I do think they're the cup favorites. That was my pick.
I don't know.
Put
I
that
would
up
all. If Kachuk comes back, I would also put Florida up there. And if you know if the thing with Aaron Ekblad actually, if that waivers, Florida's a tough team. Florida's a tough team. They have just as much of a possibility of repeating.
But don't you think losing Ekblad's got to be a big blow?
Yeah, but they'll have. Well, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but they have Seth Jones.
I mean, they lose Ekblad for 20
Ooh.
True.
due to this
I mean, they have
suspension.
that lad basically like a game or two before the playoffs start, something like that.
Yeah.
It-
So
they
Yeah, I
played-
doubt they're going to fall out of the playoffs. So
No,
yeah, I guess
so-
that's true. Yeah.
So Ekblad's suspension's 20 games. Florida's played 64. By math going that way, he would be back game 3 of the first round.
Oh no! And what they're gonna play? What the 7th or 8th seed? Who gives a shit? Like they're
Don't
I
know.
think they might fall. They might play the Leafs or the Lightning.
Oh, I want
Okay.
them to play Toronto so
Okay.
bad. I want
I-
to see that second line of Marchand, Bennett, and fucking Chuck beat them.
I don't
to a
think that's
pulp.
going to be round 1.
And it'll be
I find that
hilarious.
unlikely.
Steve Dangle will lose it.
The only
come
way
on.
that happens round 1 is if Toronto jumps both Florida and Toronto. I mean,
Right.
Tampa jumps both Florida.
Like
and Toronto.
we could beat the Rantanen trade till we're blue in the face, but there were other ones that were good
Yeah.
surprises too. There were also other ones that moved. I mean, I think we're all gonna have to agree to disagree on whether or not it was a worthwhile risk, or people should have done more of their research. But I'm on the side of Ryan and Nordy here that it was a calculated risk. It didn't
Wait,
work
no,
out,
it's-
but it was calculated.
I
If
just
they
want to say
have the
this.
extension in place, then fine. Like I think to me, that's the one big mistake
Right.
they
But
made.
Yeah,
Dallas-
Gordy
Making
sounds
that
like he's
trade
like
without-
divided in the middle.
What Dallas did. Dallas, no deal without an extension. I
Yeah,
just want
so
to say
Dallas
this.
did it perfectly.
I just want to say this for everybody watching. Let us know what you think in the comment section. Since we obviously don't fully agree in here, how do you guys feel? Let us know. All right. So what's the next one up on our list that we're going to talk about?
I actually want to bring up. Oh God, there's just so
I'll
many.
give you a good trade if you want. How
Sure.
about the Brock Nelson trade? Luke closed. That
Yeah.
should
I
be
was-
worthy on itself.
Was anyone else kind of like surprised by the return on that?
That was a haul.
Yeah, Luke.
I gotta find.
I can't believe I had to give him credit. Like when I saw that, I was like, "Wow." I mean, you still suck, but I mean, at least you did something.
I'd like to give a shout out to one of my followers on Twitter, Suitable Elias. Lou Lamorelli, you are now cured from can't close disease. Eric Tulsky, you are the new founder of the can't close disease virus.
They got Calum Ritchie, Oliver Killington. I mean, he's been having
Billington.
trouble.
They flipped him.
Billington's
and
not a bad depth guy.
They
No,
flipped him
he's
to
not.
the Ducks. They
Yeah.
flipped him to the
Oh,
Ducks
they
for
did.
futures. So
You're right.
It's nothing. Just a
You're right.
relief.
Sorry. In a first round pick in 2026 or 2027, and a third round pick in 2028. That's actually not bad for Brock Nelson.
It's not bad at all. It's
pretty
Lou did
good.
really, really well.
The only thing I'll say, I agree with you guys. Good, it's good trade. But if you look at the draft picks, so say it's not a 2026, it's a 2027. They get a 2028 on the third round pick or whatever. That's a couple of years down the road. That doesn't really help them too quickly.
Yeah, but
Callum
the Isles
Ritchie-
lost
Islanders
that
not
Callum-
going
Barry.
anywhere anytime soon.
Okay, but Callum Ritchie, good
Neither is
pickup,
Buffalo, but whatever.
like that guy. But I just think that, they're not. They're going to be retooling or doing something.
Yeah.
Islanders anyway. So, but I'm just saying that's a couple of years down the road yet for that to come in. But they did get Callum Ritchie, who I think that's a quality, for Brock Nelson. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But to be fair, okay, like they also traded away Casey Middlestat, who obviously wasn't like the ideal second line center there. So even with the acquisition of Charlie Coyle, I'm not convinced that the Avalanche took a massive step forward. Granted, they're
I am
team. So, but I don't think they're like as far along as the Stars in terms of how much of a favorite they are.
I think in terms of the defensive forward side of the puck, Colorado took a massive step forward, especially adding the likes of Charlie Coyle, who is a very good two-way forward, very good penalty killer.
No
Brock
bother.
Nelson, another big body. No, I mean, it's just true. I mean,
It's just bugging you.
he's like league wide. That's what they're good for. Brock Nelson, like, I wouldn't call him like a big body, but he plays like he's big. And I mean, if you just watch the game when they all played, like I believe it was Coyle, Nelson, they were in the lineup against the Leafs, and they won 7-4. Like, you know what I mean? You still gotta give credit to that team, like beating a team like the Leafs, who bolstered their defense pretty strongly by adding Brandon Carlo, and I think they added another defenseman as well. So you got to give credit there. I don't know. I don't think Colorado is better than Dallas, but I'll argue that they did at least get significantly better.
What's interesting is, though, like if the playoffs were to start today, it would be Colorado and Dallas in the first round.
That's a shame. That's a first round series.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Again, because that was last year too, right?
Yeah, that will be a shame if those two teams have to go in the first round.
That's 2 top 5 teams in the league, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
And it's just the way I think Colorado's coached too. Like it's good.
I will say on the Isles side too, that was a good trade for them because they have a very barren prospect pool. There's really wasn't much after Cole Eiersman, who they drafted this year. Adding a guy like Callum Ritchie gives them a good center, a playmaking center. From what I've read on this kid right off the bat, he was one of Colorado's best, if not their best prospect, from what I've heard as well. I got to give credit to Lou. He stood pat. He said, I'm not moving him unless if I get what I want. And he got what he wanted. I guess Lou still has a trick or two up his sleeve. So I've got to give him his props for that. And, in Colorado's side of things, I think adding a guy like Brock Nelson, you got a big body on the second line like that is good. Charlie Coyle, as Cam mentioned, good two-way penalty killing forward. Not a bad add there. He'll probably be playing between the second and third line, depending on where Colorado sees fit. But at the same time, do they have enough depth scoring, too, to keep up with teams like Dallas or Winnipeg in the playoffs? I don't know. I think they're a good team. I think they're a top 5 team, but they're putting probably the best division in hockey right now. So they're going to have their work cut out for them.
I think with the Larry Nichushkin coming back too from his injury, like that was huge for them too. So I mean that adds that now gives you flexibility to move guys up and down too. So you can have him play in multi situations too. And I doubt it, but there's still rumors that Landeskog may make a return for the playoffs. Extremely doubtful, but it's like they're like dangling it and threatening it. I don't think it's going to happen. I would rather him just be out, be safe, and
even if he did, he's been out for 3 years now. What do you get at this point?
To ramp him up to game time speed would be too much. A meme of a trade, because you mentioned Yzerman, was the Detroit Red Wings acquired Peter Mrazek and Craig Smith for Joe Villano. So let me get this straight. They have goalie and moderate defensive issues down in Detroit. So they decide to be like, Ville Uso, you're not cutting it. Let's go and pivot back to Peter fucking Mrazek. I think that was a downgrade.
Well, I mean, they have got Talbot, right? Don't they?
Oh, yeah, because fuck, I mean, a bucket of shit is still a bucket of shit at the end of the day.
I mean, nothing like two goalies that are a little too old also.
And yeah, like Cam Talbot's, I think, 37, 38 now?
Yeah.
Like, at least Mrazek's a little bit younger. I think 34, 35.
I'm going to be 40, dude. Come on.
I'm 62, so you guys
Ryan,
got a long way to
You look
go.
good for 40, buddy. You look really good for 40. I'm 30 and I'm balding, so you're way ahead of me.
Oh, look who's talking when it comes to balding. You get a helicopter.
Okay,
hat on my
you
head.
want a competition? Do you
No,
want
don't
competition?
take your hat
Okay.
off. Don't take your hat off. None of us
Why,
are
why are we
invited.
bragging about going bald? That's just-
I
It's
don't
not
know.
a brag. I'm trying to tell you, you're looking.
It means
good
you
for-
guys
for
are
it.
getting older. When you're talking about your hair like that, oh, I'm bald.
But-
You're getting too old already.
No, so like it makes me wonder what the hell is Detroit doing? They need goaltending. They need some defense. So you know what they do? They trade for an aging Ford and a bucket of shit.
Well, I actually I agree with you in the sense that like preparing for this podcast, like I have Detroit as a major loser just because they're in the middle of the playoff race and they don't do jack you know what. So
Oh, you can
You
swear.
can say it.
Don't worry.
They didn't do Jack Mrazek.
Maybe he doesn't swear though, but you can swear here.
so yeah, I mean
I heard swearing.
I'm fairly convinced that the Red Wings are going to fall out completely of the race eventually, and they haven't made the playoffs since what, like 2015 or something.
16.
16,
Something
yeah,
like
I think
that,
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
Last time they made it was when the Bruins, Flyers, and Red Wings were fighting for the last 2 playoff spots. If I remember correctly.
I still stand pat to say that the league is an amazing league with at least half of the original 6 teams are competing for a playoff spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but is Detroit? I
Yeah.
mean, Detroit they were like sort of up and coming, and then I think he's going backward. I don't know. I don't know what Eiserman's thinking at times.
They
it's
signed
kinda-
fucking Tarasenko and Patrick Kane in the offseason. I'm just
I
like,
know,
so
but-
do you just want to become the retirement home?
It's okay. I was going to get to. It seems to me is Eiserman starting to make moves like a GM that's trying to save his job.
No, I think he has dementia. Like at this point, I think he has no idea what he's doing.
Well, that's what I mean, right? That's what happens when a GM.
I don't think you trade for Peter Mrazek and Craig Smith if you're trying to save your job.
I know what that sounds. I know it sounds wrong.
Maybe like 15 years ago,
Just
like
making
when they were
changes.
prospects.
Just making changes, like hoping that'll work. I mean, that sounds like a GM trying to save his job.
Well, I mean,
That's not what he's doing.
a good Montreal boy, by the way. He's a former first-round pick, but he wasn't reaching his potential. So from that perspective, I can see the attraction of a guy like Craig Smith and Mrazek, I suppose. But like it's like you're not moving. It's not a good move. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't move the needle, really. It's like it's throwing SHIT to the wall and hoping something will stick.
How many good moves has he made lately?
Well, It
Anyway,
didn't stick, but it definitely stunk.
It stunk.
Actually, you want to know
I mean,
what?
they
That's not.
get a few draft picks, I guess.
Actually, you know what? That's not fair. I'm going to give a little bit of credit to Craig Smith. If he wasn't playing as physical of a game as he did, he would still be serviceable. But I just worry about like the way he plays physically. You know what I mean? Like Craig Smith is a decent depth forward, but as physical as he's been over the last like 4 or 5 years, it's probably taken a toll on him. Mrazek is just, I don't know, a sieve is generous. Swiss cheese is getting closer,
He's inconsistent. He's just more
That's-
inconsistent
and I don't know.
ever.
Is it
Yeah,
like throwing
I
hot
don't know
dog
where the
down?
hell his posts are.
Is it like throwing a hot dog down a hallway? I have no idea at this point. Like with him, it's confusing.
The thing. Go ahead. Sorry.
Ironically, like Mrazek was their goalie the last time they made the playoffs, if memory serves, and it was a first-round exit against the Lightning, I think. But like
Not
he
like
was,
8 years ago.
No, I think it was against the Bruins.
No,
I
that was
think they
2014. That was 2014.
I can't remember. I know Mrazek used to be a pain in the Bruins' sides.
Mrazek got traded in 2018 was when he got moved, but
But
go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say that once upon a time, Mrazek was a decent goalie,
Yes.
He's been moved a lot, yeah.
and maybe well, again, I believe Talbot is their number one. I could be wrong about that, but
He's the number one, I believe, too.
yeah, maybe they're thinking like Mrazek can rediscover his form because, like I think Rick was saying, like he's not incompetent. He was playing for the Blackhawks, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
But he's inconsistent. I mean,
When he was playing with the Hurricanes, he had a few good years.
he did. He had some really good years, but I think now he's more inconsistent.
I don't think he's an elite goalie by any stretch, but I do think he's capable of winning a game or two.
His ceiling is
He-
definitely a
he-
backup. Like I think he could be a solid backup, like and steal you 1 or 2 games. But I don't think he's a starter material.
You see, here's the thing when I look at them right now is the moves that Yzerman has made has just been that of a GM that's trying to make steps when they haven't made the leap that they need to yet. They brought in Patrick Kane last year when they were clearly not good enough to make a step. They brought in Tarasenko this year when they were clearly not good enough to make a step. And Detroit came close last year, but they missed. And I just look at this right now, and they just can't elevate to playoff contention yet. And I just don't understand a move like Mrazek, just where that fits in right now. They just keep. I feel like Yzerman's just throwing shit against the wall and hoping it sticks at this point. I'm getting Chuck Fletcher PTSD.
Anyway, that's what Ryan said. He's throwing shit against the wall, hoping something sticks. But I mean, it's not a good place to be. And Steve Yzerman, come on, that's not what he should be doing or what you expect.
I think I'll be fair, and I think that trade, Veleno for Mrazek and Smith, was more so about Smith than it was Mrazek because the Blackhawks had just acquired Spencer Knight, right?
Yep.
So Blackhawks were probably just looking to get rid of the guy.
They were, yeah, they were.
Yeah. I don't know who their Chicago's backup goalie is. I thought that was great for Chicago. Great deal by Chicago.
Soderstrom.
Soderblom.
Yeah, that's it.
I thought that was great that Chicago finally found their goaltender. Spencer Knight's their goaltender. Now you just got to work on the defense. Yeah, now you got to work on the defense a little bit. Like you have Levshinov, Korchinski, Alex Vlasic, and I think Dickinson, right?
No, Dickinson's in San Jose.
Yeah.
Who the heck is the? Oh, I was wrong. I don't know. But you got 3 decent defensive prospects there.
No, I know who you're talking about. In the last draft, no,
it was Jason. I think they got Jason.
Yeah, Jason Dickinson. He's
Jason Dickinson is a forward.
He's a forward.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I thought he was burning Sam.
Right, he's a forward, right?
San Jose.
No, you're right. I'm sorry. He is a forward. No, but like they're doing better, and they got rid of that awful Seth Jones contract that should be launched into the sun. So
Well, it was, but it was launched into
it was literally launched into sunrise.
Launched into sunrise.
sunrise. There you go.
That was actually a good trade for Florida, especially with what's going on with Aaron Ekblad. For those of you who don't know, Aaron Ekblad was caught with PEDs.
Now
PEDs.
Yes, don't say that's okay. This is in French, but he got 20 games for substance. What are they?
Failing
Performance-enhancing drugs.
For failing the drug. Yeah, so it's a banned substance. It doesn't mean it's any kind of heavy drug or anything, but it's probably some sort of a steroid or human growth hormone thing.
That's
something
not
like
a
HGH or
but-
something along those lines. Yeah.
At the end of the day, like the Panthers are without Ekblad for, I think Alex was saying
Game 3 is when he came.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be back to the
up
playoffs.
until 2 games into the playoffs. That's what we established.
Yeah, so in the end, it's
So
not-
Seth Jones is either the acquisition of Seth Jones is either fortuitous or they knew what was going on ahead of time and they
yeah.
made the play. But I don't think Jones is an adequate replacement for Ekblad. And with Matthew Tkachuk injured, granted they acquired Brad Marchand.
He's also injured.
And but they're both supposed to be back before the playoffs, just before.
So I think the Panthers aren't bulletproof by any stretch. I don't think they fall out of a playoff spot. But
for sure they're not bulletproof. It's definitely not a short thing for them.
And the Canadians have them on back-to-backs, or sorry, the home and home series. So that's good for the Canadians.
Panthers? Do we have the Panthers home and home?
Yeah, late March, early April.
I know we play them. I didn't know it was 2 games to be honest. Oh yeah, you know what? You're right. I forgot it's 2 games. You're right.
So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say the Panthers are an easy target by any stretch, but they're an easier target, and that's something.
Yeah, I mean slightly easier. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's just if Bobrovsky can pull what he pulled last year, because honestly, I watched Game 7. If it wasn't for him, Panthers don't win that game. He stood standing on his head is an understatement for what he did. Like that was ridiculous.
What great goalies do.
Yeah, he like
in the big game.
they owed him more than one cup. Like, you know what I mean? Like after that, I saw him make saves that I never seen in my entire life, and I thought like the save that Jonathan Quick made on Jerome McGinley, where somehow it just curved behind Quick and just vacated the net, didn't count, was impressive. That was just wow. Credit to Bob. Happy for him though.
I'll readily admit.
Did you say Jerome McGinley though?
Jerome McGinley, when he played for
Last
Calgary.
year.
No, not last year.
Okay, I lost on something.
No, I said it reminded me
something. Okay,
No,
I
it
just
was-
thought you were saying last
yeah.
year. I'm going, what?
I was
If you
talking about
haven't,
10 years ago.
yeah, if you haven't seen that, go take a look at it. It was like a fucking curveball.
I'll readily admit with regard to Bobrovsky that when they signed him as a free agent from the Columbus Blue Jackets, I was skeptical. And up until this point, like he's had good seasons, he's had bad seasons, and they drafted Spencer Knight, so I was under the impression that it was kind of a bad move, but obviously it paid off and they got their cup.
Wasn't Florida trying to move him too at some point?
I wouldn't be surprised because it was a horrible contract.
It took a few years and
worked
10
out.
million.
Yeah.
I think I may be wrong about the chronology, but if my memory is correct, they drafted Knight and then they signed Bobrovsky the same year.
Mm-hmm. They paid Knight to be the next guy too. Funny enough, is the way they were going with that.
I was a little surprised about them trading Spencer.
But all that to say, I'm not sure that Bobrovsky has it in him at his age to do what he did 2 years in a row.
Right, 1 year older is a lot at his age.
Mm-hmm. Especially with that type of cup run already under your belt as well. But yeah, let's move on to some of the other big trades that happened as well.
Let's. Why don't we at this point get to that big one? That's the title of the show. No, we're already 37 minutes in.
Marchand.
Let's talk about the Marchand trade.
I don't want to.
You got
it up on eyebrow.
Close your mic. It's no problem.
I think that the Bruins were probably the biggest losers of the day, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have a really hard time convincing anybody else of that. Bruins got all their draft capital back. They got they had a whole roster reset. Like they're gonna get a first round from Marchand, who wasn't staying. I think that's a really bad take. To say that they're the biggest loser. Okay, that's a bad take.
I'm talking from the perspective that they're 2 years removed from a record-setting 65-point season, and now all of a sudden they're in rebuild mode. That's a
fair point.
I mean, I would say it's more of a strong retool. The stagnant cap definitely screwed the team over. Also, their own penalty with the overages that were contingent on Bergeron and Krejci when they both signed the $1 million contracts that screwed them over.
Can I make a comment on that?
Screwed them over.
Can I say something? Because I directed the Bruins podcast yesterday. Billy Jaffe pretty much said that it's a rebuild. If he didn't actually say it, he was that close.
No, he didn't.
I wanted to jump
he said
it.
He said it's probably the closest thing that you could get, but it's a strong retool.
But it's like you can call it whatever. It's right there. It's just above that line.
You're not gonna rebuild when you have Jeremy Swayman, Charlie McAvoy, and David Pastrnak. You can't. It doesn't make the sense to do that. Like Ryan said, you're 2 years removed from the best team that hockey had seen this
How
decade.
many guys from that team are still here, though?
3. Actually, 4. We got one back.
I will say this.
Answers my question.
I have to agree with Cam. I don't think it's possible to do a full stage rebuild with the players that they have locked up.
But it's not a full rebuild, but it's so close. That's what Billy said.
I think Cam is accurate in terms of like it being on the
heavy
line
retool.
of a heavy retool rebuild.
A heavy retool.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't agree with the fact that you can call them the biggest loser. I think the New Jersey Devils and the Buffalo Sabres were bigger losers than them. I have
them on my list too, but
I think the Bruins actually hit pretty well in 4 out of their 5 deals. It's just the one that they didn't just was awful to the way they handled it.
Yeah.
Now, I think they had a good return on Coyle. I think that was a good return for them. I think they did pretty good on, what was the other? The Trent Frederick deal earlier in the week. They got a second and a fourth for him, if I remember correctly. Expiring contract and a
The
down
Marchand deal was the only one that was questionable.
Yeah, I agree with that. Then they also traded Carlo. They got a first-round pick in Fraser Minton, who is one of the Leafs' top 5 prospects.
Fraser.
It's not really saying much.
Fraser Minton, sorry.
Fraser? So that like the TV show, Fraser?
Ryan and I are just feuding because he's a Canadians fan and I'm a Bruins fan.
My point being, I have to agree with Cam in the terms of I don't think they were one of the biggest losers. I think they had maybe the biggest individual L of a trade just because of the way they handled the Marchand trade. But in a full picture, because of the other moves they make, I can't call them one of the biggest losers or the biggest loser because my 2 biggest losers I just mentioned are Buffalo and New Jersey. Both of those teams, I don't know what the hell they did. New Jersey said they still want to be aggressive and bring in Brian Dumoulin for a second-round pick. Can someone explain to me why you bring in a bottom-pairing guy on a team that still wants to admit they want to buy when you lost Jack Hughes for the season? And all they brought in was Dumoulin for a second? Like,
I mean,
I'm
not disagreeing with you on that. I think that the Devils, they didn't do what they needed to do in light of the injury to Hughes.
And then the Buffalo Sabres.
What a
Prices
tragedy.
were high. Prices were high. That's
hold on, real quick. What a tragedy regarding Hughes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that stinks. What a young guy. I mean, I'm not saying like he's gone or anything, but like
sound like
season,
that.
But a season-ending injury
second
that just
year in a row,
sucks
too.
for a kid
But
his
I mean,
age.
come on. It happens to somebody every year.
I will say this about Jack Hughes. He's a fantastic talent, one of the better skilled position guys in the league. But you've got to question a few things with this kid. Number one is his durability. This is now the second year in a row he's suffered a season-ending injury. I think both times from shoulder injuries, too, if I remember correctly. Because I think that's what he suffered last year, too.
He's a lanky guy. He's got a lanky frame.
And that's another thing. Plays when physicality picks up, this guy has issues. He's a small kid. I think if Hughes is going to want to be successful long-term in this league, he's going to have to put on a little more weight.
They need a big guy. They need somebody on his line.
I don't think weight is like Rick knows what I'm talking about. Like Canadians have Kirby Doc, and with all the durability issues you just mentioned, he's like, hold my beer. And
I have to admit that now.
And the Doc is a big guy. He may not use his size as effectively as the Canadians would like, but yeah.
No, sorry. Like Ryan, what's the phrase? Like the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Sometimes like that can be it.
I mean, that is fair. But I think in Jack Hughes' case, I think some extra weight would do some benefit for him.
If I remember his draft year, I mean, this was a thing about Jack Hughes that they were talking about. He's not a big guy. He's going to have to bulk up, like get more durable. I remember that being a talking point about him.
Yeah, but it's not just. I agree with Ryan. It's not just about the size. Because look at Johnny Hockey. When he was around and when he was playing, like he set the tone for people of that size and that weight range. Like he was a phenomenal player.
Well, okay, but then not everybody avoids the hits as well. Maybe
some players are more susceptible to injury than others. That's just
right. That's true too. Right? Everybody's different.
And it sucks for Kirby Doc. I actually really liked that acquisition for Montreal. Like I loved it.
It's not over yet.
I may be a Bruins fan, but I tell Rick all the time, like I would love a decade where the Bruins and Montreal just are elite teams together because I think that just makes the league that much better. Mm-hmm. So, and then Ryan and I can duke it out on the podcast more.
The fun thing about that rivalry, I think it's the best rivalry in all of hockey, but like no matter where teams are in the standings, like anything can happen in any given game. Like you don't know.
That I'll give you that with the Bruins rivalry. For me, it's the Toronto rivalry, but I'll say it's not just about hockey with the Toronto rivalry for me. But I agree with the Bruins rivalry is the games are like I don't hate the Bruins because they give you. We had so many great series, the intensity and everything. I hate the players, but I got to say I respect them too. So it's like, I think I don't know. For me, Toronto's.
I
The
just
most
have
intense rivalry.
I just have one comment on the Toronto thing. Toronto's biggest rival is Game 7 of the playoffs.
Oh boy,
So
You
I
really
can't
went
wait.
there.
I
Yeah.
can't wait. It's like
Well-
death, taxes, and Toronto blowing it in Game 7.
Or
Like,
just
those are
in
the
the
three
first
certainties
round.
of life.
No, they also the first round has to be an enemy of theirs too.
Honestly,
So yeah.
I would love perfect, like born and bred Montreal, like, and I can tell you, I can readily admit that Montreal Canadiens are not a playoff caliber team right now. But I would love it if they just snuck into the playoffs just to face the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first round, just to watch
Yeah.
Toronto have a collective meltdown.
I would buy a jersey for Montreal.
In
Or
20,
I would borrow one from Matt. I'm not kidding. You will see me become the biggest Montreal Canadiens fan through that
It-
entire series.
in
I'm gonna
2021,
tell Vogel you said that.
Go ahead. I don't
in-
care.
in
Fuck the Leafs.
2021
Like, that's where I'm at.
in 2021, because I do all the games, right? I do live streams for the games. I was the only one, and Matt's witnesses, calling for Montreal and Toronto. Nobody wanted Toronto because they were afraid of Toronto. I said, no way. I want Toronto. If we're making the playoffs, I want to take them down. We will beat them. And I was right the whole way. Everybody was didn't believe.
The question is, were you saying that the Canadiens would come back from 3-1 down?
I was a little wavery at that point, but I mean, I was still supporting them. And then when we won Game 5, oh boy, yeah. Then I was just, I said their sticks are going to get tight, and they're going to watch. This is what's going to happen. It's exactly what happened. Exactly.
Yeah, no, when we won
they
Game
got
6 of that
nothing
series,
here,
and KK
Toronto.
scored that goal. I mean, that was the series.
I
That was it.
thought we weren't
There's no way
going to
Toronto was winning Game 7.
Yeah,
that
don't
was a
mention the
shame.
name.
I'm
We're having
actually
nightmares.
I am actually upset that Carey Price's career ended without a cup. Like I that man is a
We all
saint.
are.
I've seen the work he does for charity. He's just an amazing human being. It's the same thing with Henrik Lundqvist too. Like, it's just two people you wish could have gotten a cup.
It's unfortunate.
Don't tell
not
my
everybody can get a cup.
podcast mates that, guys.
Oh,
Like,
Lundy,
I'm sorry. It should be illegal to be as handsome as Henrik Lundqvist.
God, he's so handsome.
God, I just want to run my fingers through his hair just once.
Stupid, sexy Lundqvist, man.
I would get
did
arrested
he
just
do
for.
it?
He'd be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm just like, I
might not-
just want to touch it.
Got the
You might-
perfect jawline. Just
You might
look
not get
at
close to Henrik, but you might get Joel. So, say your card. Brett.
I do want to bring up, though, another one of the losers, as I was mentioning, the Buffalo Sabres.
You hate the Buffalo Sabres.
What do you guys think about that Dylan Cousins and Josh Norris?
I don't think there's any justifying it. It's just a weird trade by a team that has a history of making bad trades. Like, I can understand like why you might want the lateral move from Cousins to Norris, but Norris has injury issues.
A lot of them.
Supposedly an attitude problem.
I can't speak to that, but I'm just saying they also gave up the Sabres also gave up a second round pick. Granted, you have Jacob Bernard Docker going back to the Sabres, but he's not. He's a depth defenseman. Like, I just don't like. It's like it didn't. I don't think it needed to be made at all. Like, Cousins has higher upside, in my opinion.
No, I agree with you. They keep getting younger. Like, you know what I mean? It's like they want to stay perpetually young.
No.
But they
Ward
don't-
is older than Cousins.
No. But I'm trying to say, like, because they keep going down, like, in the standings, so you're going to draft higher. I don't know if they're planning on selling that pick and getting players in return. I don't know what they're. I don't think the Pagulas have a fucking plan.
They don't. I heard. I don't remember who it was. A good analyst saying the big reason they feel that Buffalo's where they are is they've got no good veteran leadership there.
I think Nordy said it best a few weeks ago. Until the Pagulas sell that team and let hockey people actually run that organization, they're going to be
just bring
stuck in
one
the
in.
mud.
You don't have
year
to
after
sell
year.
it, but just put like hockey
Bring
people
one
in
in.
charge.
Bare
You know
minimum.
what? I work with a Buffalo Sabres fan. I actually have been trying to get him to see if he'll come on, but I think he's just afraid of getting bullied by Alex.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
So
Why? Is
No.
it because I always call them a terrorist organization?
Yes.
we need to listen. You need to stop that. You just
Yeah,
stop
no,
calling them
he's
a terrorist
seriously easy on
organization.
that.
All right.
Oh my
I'll
God.
Weren't they on Biden's list?
But stop that.
But
Stop it.
no. So real talk. I want to just talk about Josh Norris real quick. So this is a guy that makes roughly $8 million a year. He's now age 25. He's hit 40 points once.
You got to remember, Alex, there is a cap floor they have to hit.
That is true, but I mean, Dylan Cousins makes money too. He makes over $7 million, so it's not like a big giant difference in money. They took on about another $700,000-800,000 or something like that. But the big issue is Josh Norris has as you guys just mentioned, has so many injury problems. This guy, the most games he's played in a season is 66. He's never played a full season. He's always hurt. Right now, he's only missed, I think, like maybe 8 or 9 games this year. So he's on pace for having his career high in games played, but he still is pretty much a lock to have an injury every year. He's going down what I would, from my perspective, the Sean Couturier route, where this guy is a two-way guy who should have the potential to put up about 70 points, but can't stay healthy, and he's going to have the durability issues pretty much limit his career, and it's just going to turn into a bad contract.
I want to
get it.
I want to go back to Ryan's point when he just said he didn't understand the point of the trade. I think I've discovered it, Ryan. They're two shit teams that just don't want to go anywhere.
I mean, I think
So they figured, why not just trade shit for
progression.
shit? Like, to be fair, it's not shit for shit. Norris is, when he's on, and Cousins when he's on. They are good, young, talented players. But let's be real, Ottawa is only where they are because Ullmark has been bailing their ass out.
They will
Like,
play just without Ullmark for a little while, though.
I think they have a decent team, and I think they're going to make the playoffs. Personally, for the finally,
I do too.
years of
I think they have
rebuilding.
a very good top
It's hard outside of Tim Stützle. It's really hard for me to find someone I hate on Ottawa. But I just can't stand the German dive champion of the year.
You like
for sure. Great. I don't like Brady.
What was that, Ryan?
Yeah,
you like Brady Tkachuk?
well, he's American, so yeah.
I love Brady. I hate his brother.
Okay.
Brady doesn't bother me yet.
I hate Brady Tkachuk. I love Matty Tkachuk.
Yeah, love Matty, hate Brady.
Okay.
He
just
just
the
has a
opposite.
Oh, sorry. I love Matty, hate Brady. No, love Brady, hate Matty. My bad.
Cam's about to have a stroke.
Words. Like I'm having a problem. Leave me alone.
But
I'm going back. I'm going back into timeout.
Canadian fans don't like Stützle either.
Hate him absolutely. And really,
I'm in the
Greg,
minority.
Really,
I've
Ryan?
always liked Tim Stützle.
Really, Ryan? Judging by Rick's reaction, I would say you're full of crap. But like, you know, because he was just all in on that. Like, yeah, no, I can't stand him. Every time I see him go down off of a tripping call, I'm like, can you call him for embellishment too? Like, it's just bad.
Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I think he has more time, like more of a harder time staying on skates than a football player would.
No, but I mean, staying on skates, he falls on purpose.
That
Not a problem.
Welcome to the joke.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Thanks for playing.
Good to warn
You want to see what's behind door number 1?
It's so rare to make a joke.
It's a goat.
I got to count.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you.
Thanks for the Montreal support there, Ryan.
So, since we're on the topic of Montreal, let's move to one of their biggest rival, in my opinion, Toronto. They made a couple decent moves as well.
Yeah, I refuse to believe that.
Brought in a player from both your team, Cam, and my team, and Brandon Carlo and Scott Lawton.
Two big play. Honestly, a depth player in Lawton, great pickup for them. I hate to see it. And defensively for Carlo, good pickup. Again, a good shutdown defenseman that they've been missing.
Lawton brings good bottom six potential. He's a Swiss Army knife that can pretty much play almost anywhere in the lineup. I still think they overpaid for him, but I think it is still a good ad. He brings leadership, and they've been looking for a good third line guy. So now Max Domi doesn't play at the 3C anymore, so I guess hooray for them. Oh. And, you know, I love Lots. I want to see him have an opportunity to win somewhere. I think he could fit almost anywhere.
Why'd he go to Toronto?
Why'd you go to Toronto?
I know. He's probably not going to win there.
Did you hear yourself?
You also said, like, yeah, now Max Domi gets to play top line minutes. I'm just like,
no, not top line. Now he doesn't play at
He's third line right wing quarantine.
Yeah,
he's on the wing.
They put him at the second line right wing.
No, he's playing on the wing with
see, that's what I meant. They moved him off the center spot. Now they can put Lawton there.
Just like Ty Domi, I hate him. I hate Max Domi so much. He just has a very punchable face.
but only a
I
mother
have
could love.
3 Max Domi T-shirts, but okay,
Oh.
because I got them at like bargain basement at Walmart.
Well, he was
so-
a Canadian for like what, a couple of years, right?
2
He
years,
led
yeah.
the Canadians in scoring back in
1 year, 1 season, yeah, 72 points.
That was a career high for him, I believe.
Yep. Oh
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I guess
and-
playing for the Maple Leafs gives you a career low.
He ain't never coming close to that again. I don't think.
No,
I think he
doesn't
has
happen.
legitimate top 6 scoring talent. He just has put it together consistently. But yeah, so
Emotionally.
Canadians then traded him for Josh Anderson, and
Yeah.
I personally, it's not a popular opinion, but I prefer to have Max Domi at this point. But that's just me. Anyway,
Yeah,
All
I
right,
don't
Ryan,
think-
we're back to
honestly-
fighting.
No, but honestly, I'm curious. I wonder how much of a popular opinion that actually is, because a lot of people are not happy with Andy, and I'm curious as if I asked that question on my live streams, what the answer would be. I got to remember
I
to do
think
that
this year has been kind of a rehabilitation party for
For
Andy.
this year.
This
This year, yes,
just
he's
because
kind of
in the lineup, and he's no longer
the
expected.
role they're giving him is much
Right.
better for him.
You're
Yeah.
paying him like $5.5 million. I think.
Yeah, but you know what? 5.5 now going forward, especially for a third line guy, is not unheard. It's not going to be unheard
that
of.
big.
That's going to be that kind of money for those guys. That's what I'm hearing from people that know more than we do. Anyway,
Ryan,
I'll speak
I
for
do-
myself. Anyway,
Yeah, it's because of Anderson. That's why.
no, it's not just.
Ryan, I do want to ask your opinion on, because me being a Flyers fan, what did you think of the trade actually with Lawton and the Leafs? Do you think it was an even deal? Gave a little too much? What do you think of?
Canadians fans were looking at that deal very closely. Well, maybe not at the time, but
before Jake Evans resigned.
Yeah,
because Jake Evans was the
they
Canadians'
were relatable. Yeah,
first round pick. So when Lawton got traded for what he did, I personally wrote something to the effect of, well, it's true, they could have gotten a first round pick for Jake Evans. I'm not the biggest Jake Evans fan. I'd say I'm neutral, although people have accused me of
Blasphemous.
they didn't just get a first for him too. They got a prospect too. Nikita Kravenkin.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't hate Jake Evans, to be clear. I think he's a very good fourth line center. I just have issues with the Canadians re-signing him for 4 years up until the point he's 33. It was a reasonable deal in terms of cap hit and everything. I just don't. I think he's poised to decline. He's definitely not going to be shooting 20% again in his career.
No, but don't you think though they didn't pay that, right? That's the $4 million. So I'm happy that they didn't pay for that.
Yes,
And they kind of paid for the guy that they know they're going to get.
I agree. I agree on that front. I just think that the Canadians have a very deep prospect pool, and Alex just disappeared.
Yeah, we just lost Alex. He'll be
He'll
back.
be back. He
That
comes
was
back.
weird. I'm back.
Yeah, so I think the Canadians have a very deep prospect pool, and I just think that given a season or two, like Owen Beck is coming up almost certainly next season to be a bottom six center for the Canadians.
It's funny you say that though. They just sent him back down and called Roy up.
Well, yeah, I can understand that because like he wasn't producing as a second line center.
Yeah.
So it also makes sense for me that I don't know what they're going to do, but Martin St. Louis is always a bag of surprises to me. But I think that the logic is they would put Newhook at center, which is where he wants
That's what's going to happen. Yeah.
last season playing with Roy. That line was also with Yoel Armia, but I don't think they moved him off the Evans line. But anyway, my point is that I think it would have been the Canes would have been better served trading Jake Evans for a first round pick. What happened with the Canadians, in my opinion, is that they came out of the Four Nations face-off break and won 5 games in a row and put Kent Hughes in an impossible position because he couldn't sell off assets at that point with the Canadians, like 1 or 2 points out of a playoff spot, because then he would have had to
The story's a little different.
give up on the season.
The story's actually a little different than that. Have you heard the whole story?
Please.
Nick Suzuki approached Kent Hughes apparently
Yeah.
and asked him not to trade any of his guys. So Hughes said, "You don't want anybody traded? Go out and win." And this was just after the Four Nations finished, right? So before they started playing, he says,
I mean,
"You don't want anybody gone. You go out and win."
that's
And
nice,
that's what he
and I believe it happened. But ultimately, Kent Hughes is Nick Suzuki's boss, is he not?
Yeah, and you know what the funny thing? Okay, that story is out, but then you hear that he kicked the tires on and Buffalo there on two players, right? On Cousins and on Paterka, and he was kicking the tires and calling around. So I agree that that's probably just a nice story that really kind of did happen, but Kent Hughes actually just did his job as the GM, and I think if a deal was there, they would have made that deal.
Pivot. We're gonna pivot back to the Maple Laughs for a quick second, and then I do actually have a point on your second line center situation that I think you guys should have made a move for. Looking at the daily face-off and how they have it, the only weakness right now I see in Toronto in their forward group is their top six and Cale Yarncroc. I don't think that's a great, second line left wing for them with how they have it. And then on defense, just being out Chris Tanev is the only bad thing I have right now. I mean, they're looking like a legitimate contender despite myself wanting to puke saying that. Yeah. Sorry, that was our quick Maple Laughs take.
That's just like random out of what we're talking
Richard.
No, the original question was about the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then you guys started talking about Jake Evans. I'm just bringing it back full circle.
You're right. I apologize.
I'm bringing it back, baby.
Alex asked what I thought about the Scott Laughton trade. So,
and then we talked about Jake Evans.
But then we talked about the freaking Jake Evans the whole time.
It's the Maple Leafs, so
who
cares?
That's your question. Sorry. I think it was a slight overpay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Now I would agree with that.
3 hours later.
But this was something that Hughes did say when he was looking. The prices were high, and you look at Lawton, who's her third line center, and you had to pay a first for him.
And
so the prices were high.
It was a seller's market, so
it was a seller's market. So yeah,
Canadians, in my opinion, with their injury situation, like I said, I don't think they're making the playoffs, and it pains me to say that because I really want them to and take that next step in their rebuild, but I just don't see it happening as close as they are. But I also think that Hughes was in a tough position, and there was no way he was going to sell off assets with the Canadians being where they are.
Yeah.
So
right.
I'm not at all.
And the expense of buying the guy, Anyways, back to Toronto.
There was a team I was relatively surprised at, or surprised that was relatively quiet at the trade deadline. It was actually the Anaheim Ducks. They didn't really do much of anything. I thought they were going to probably move Zegras, John Gibson, or
I did too. I thought
Mason McTavish. I thought they were going to move some of their top ones.
There was an incident.
Whoa. They got that whole second round pick for Brian Dumoulin.
There was an.
They also got Eric Brandstrom.
Hello. There was an incident with Zegras where he had a fight in a bar.
Well, yeah, I heard about that with
he had a fight in the bar.
So the reason I'm saying that is maybe teams didn't go after Zegras because the reason why I don't want Montreal.
Do you know how many allegations that the fucking NHL players have gone through and people still sign them to big money? I mean, do you remember what the allegations were against Patrick Kane like 10 years ago? The allegations against Austin Matthews and these guys, how much money they make? Who gives a fucking shit if he goes and calls some influencer a wine bag?
He had a fight. They threw fists, man.
Okay, honestly, I'm sorry. If Trevor Zegras came up at me with fists, I would be like, okay, down kitten. He's tiny. He doesn't seem that tough.
I'm just saying. Yeah, but not everybody's 6'2".
He looks like a preppy he looks like a preppy douchebag, but I love him.
Not everybody's 6'2" like you.
Ironically, oddly enough, or coincidentally enough, Zegras is someone that's been in the rumor with regard to the Canadians.
Yeah, I know.
That second line center spot.
But he's not.
But you guys don't want him, from what I understand.
No.
There's not a want for him.
How do you feel? How do you feel, Ryan, on that? Are you a Zegras guy?
I wouldn't touch him with a 39.5-foot pole.
Are you a Zegras guy?
I want McTavish personally.
Who are you asking that question of me or?
Yeah, you, Ryan.
I think it's a general thing. Baby.
I'm relatively indifferent in the sense that I've seen what he's capable of, and I've seen how he's played the last few seasons in terms of production, and I'm open-minded, but I'm not all gung-ho about the possibility. I'm more on board with the idea of giving Kirby Dach time to recuperate again which is sad, I suppose.
You got to figure
Oh,
that
but-
out. This is, in my
Oh, no,
opinion,
he's
this
out of
is
their
like his
plans.
last year.
From
Like
what I'm
this
hearing,
coming year,
no.
yeah.
From what I'm hearing, okay, at the press conference after the deadline, Hughes
Yeah.
was asked about that.
Yeah, I
And
remember
he kind
that.
of evaded it, didn't he? And everyone's
Yeah,
saying the way he answered that, you could tell Doc is probably not at all in their plans anymore. As the
Well, I think it's more like
Take him.
if he like they're gonna see what's gonna happen. Like they're not going to keep him as a second line center. Like they're just gonna hope for the best and look elsewhere. I mean, they're not going to trade the guy. No one's going to take him, right?
no,
Like,
no, he's going to be a winger. They're going to put him on the wing.
I'll give you a 5th round pick for him.
Might take
That's
it.
not high enough, I don't think. Even then.
I don't know. Like based on his injury, when Doc first came,
You're not going to be able to sell him high, Rick, if you think you're going to get any higher than maybe a 4th. Like the 4th might be your ceiling for him right now with how infrequently
That's
he's
why-
played.
That's why they'll hold on to him for now.
I'm just saying when Doc first came over, his first season here, he had 38 points in 55 games, and he was playing like a center that some people at least thought could usurp Nick Suzuki as number one center on the team.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I remember that. I remember. You're right.
I don't know, like that wasn't accurate, but that was what the talk was.
Yeah, the talk was that.
He was playing very well, and like a guy who was a 3rd overall pick just a few years prior, and then to start the next season he got injured 2 games in, missed the rest of the season, couldn't find his legs, literally I suppose, this season, and then he gets another knee injury, same knee I believe.
Regardless of Kirby Doc, because again, we can beat that till we're blue in the face with him, but I was just genuinely surprised Montreal didn't make a bid either for Zegras or McTavish, because I was talking to Rick about it, for quite some time. Like, you guys are in the market for a 2C. You could realistically draft it this season, maybe, if there is one in the draft that you could get. Apparently there's a lot of centers in the top 10, so that is a possibility.
That guy, if we're gonna go that route, he's already in the system in Hage more than likely. But
maybe
with Zegras, I don't believe Zegras is on Montreal's radar. I really don't.
He was.
I don't think he is either.
Maybe he
He
was.
was.
I don't think he still is, because he's smaller than Suzuki. I don't want my second line center behind Suzuki to be smaller than him.
No, but that's why you have the
So-
bigger wingers too. Like sometimes
No,
it's
I'm
okay to have
sorry.
a smaller
I
center.
I don't think they're getting a
But,
small
yeah.
center.
Rick and I actually talked about this last time I was on the Habs Normal podcast with Matt. We discussed Elias Pettersson as a potential option in the offseason.
That I don't know if you want that. The big risk. $11 million, that's a huge risk with that.
It
And you
is.
don't know what you're going to get out of him right now. I mean,
Yeah,
he's,
I'm not on the side of getting Pettersson,
Yeah.
but Ryan likes the idea. Don't
No,
let Alex hear that. He wants
No.
Pettersson.
You know what I think though, because I've talked about this with Alex too. I'm like, that's similar to the Rantanen. It's like it's very high risk, but it's also it could really work out for you.
Yeah, but this is what I'm hearing.
But
though,
you
from a
don't
lot
pay
of-
your second line center
This is-
$11 million. He would have to surpass Suzuki.
Also, what I'm hearing from people who are more insider than me on the radio and shit. Montreal, whoever they get, if they get a second line center, there's not going to be question marks. He's not going to be a reclamation project. He's going to be established, and we're not going to question. Can he do it? Can he not? I don't think they're bringing in a guy with more question marks.
Guys available.
If that guy's available, of
No,
course.
but if for any team that brings in Elias Pettersson,
They've
he's
got
your first.
assets.
If any team is bringing in Elias Pettersson, it says your 1C. It's not your 2C. You cannot justify paying a 2C $11 million.
This is
I
the.
agree. We're not bringing Pettersson in.
I'm not saying we. I'm not saying I shouldn't say we. I'm not saying the Canadians are.
No, I'm
But-
just saying in general.
At the end of that conversation, Rick, you saw something of the light, because with Demidov coming over, you're going to need someone to center him.
Yeah.
Someone skilled, correct?
Someone.
And you're not going to break up
two-way.
P. Caulfield and Slavkovsky.
Nope.
So what are you going to do?
Real.
Listen.
that's
I don't think Pettersson is that guy.
Alex Newhook is here.
And listen, Alex Newhook is not going to center Demidov. With what you got to pay Pettersson his contract, you can't tell me they can't find a guy at even a little less than that. And they got the assets, they got prospects, they can find a guy and make a deal. I believe.
I have faith in Hughes. I just
I
don't
do too.
know who the target would be. That's all.
I agree.
So,
Cousins would have been a target.
Yeah, Cousins
So-
was because they kicked the tires on him.
They did.
but you know what? So
Price was too high.
Montreal. So yeah, turn your camera on. Montreal didn't do anything at the trade deadline, though, and I was surprised by that. You know who else didn't do things at the trade deadline? The Kraken didn't do much. They actually sold more than they bought, which is fine. I think they needed to. Columbus was quiet. Calgary quiet. I was surprised at some of those teams. The Kings quiet. A lot of teams where you think that had a push.
There were
Did
only 24
quiet.
deals on Friday.
Yeah,
that's not a lot.
I was anticipating all hell breaking loose and
I was expecting more than 24. That's for sure. I was.
I bet you there was so much going on in the background that
Yeah,
we
'cause-
don't know about because people were screaming and yelling at each other. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall
Also-
in every single
no
one's
kidding.
room.
Also, it's because prices were as high as they were. I think that kept some of the deals from happening because prices were like Montreal might have made a deal with someone, but not for what they were asking.
Yeah. Ottawa quiet. Like they're just I mean
Ottawa
it's
wasn't
not-
quiet.
Oh, so what
Yeah,
they
they had,
quiet,
what are you going to say? They had a Dylan Cousins.
they had a Dylan Cousins at the cost of Josh Norris. So I mean it was a trade, it was a
I
hockey
don't
trade.
It's not quiet, though.
And they got Zetterlund, so
Oh yeah, and they did
Yeah,
get
they
Zetterlund.
were
Sure,
quiet.
fine.
That wasn't the right
Fine.
team.
So they got Zetterlund, but they weren't as making a big of a splash as I thought that they were going to be. Detroit had a Mrazek. Like, you know what I mean? There just weren't that many things. New Jersey added a couple pieces, but none of them were needle movers.
There weren't. Yeah, there weren't as many big deals as I would have thought, and also there weren't as many of those smaller ones too. Like there were a lot less than I was expecting on Friday. That was a surprise to me.
No, it wasn't. It was boring up, and I think until like 1 o'clock, like around
Dude,
noon.
Yeah,
1
no,
o'clock.
it was that we came on at 1, maybe 2
1:30.
o'clock.
Things started happening. Yeah,
about
it
2
was-
o'clock.
Because
It
people
started
are
to happen.
They know they got to make the moves.
I
Yeah.
mean, Winnipeg made 2 acquisitions. I mean, it was good. They got Luke Shen. I mean, there were decent trades enough, but none that moved. Again, 2 of the biggest teams that I think surprised me that didn't do anything, and they have like they were given like I think a cap gift or something like that by the NHL because of what happened with Johnny. Matt, turn your camera on, and like it was Calgary and Columbus. Columbus is exempt from the cap this year.
Right.
So
Oh,
that
they're
was a
exempt.
huge, they're exempt.
That's what the exemption. I heard something, and I wasn't sure what the exemption was. Thanks for. I didn't.
So I'm
thanks.
just
I
like,
appreciate
you're
knowing
really,
that.
and you're pushing for a playoff spot, and you're
Right.
getting the opportunity. That's cool. That's crazy to me.
But-
If I'm Columbus and I'm the players, I'm screaming for Johnny. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh no. But
Like,
see,
you know
when,
what I mean? If
but
I'm
when I
Calgary,
say-
for Johnny, like,
but
you
when
know what
I
mean?
say that the prices were high, it's the price you have to pay in players and whatever to get. So maybe they couldn't make a deal that people weren't asking them to overpay in picks or prospects or whatever. That's probably why.
Yeah.
But I
Anyone
agree
else
with you.
notice?
I think the salary cap exemption was just so it could fall below the floor. No,
That I don't know.
No, I think they, I think they also were given a certain other exemption too. Like they can go a certain percentage over.
That's what I heard. There was something to do with an exemption, and I imagine it wouldn't be the floor thing. It would that I heard.
Because I
but
think they were already at the
maybe.
floor, even without his contract. I don't know. I'm not 100% positive, but I think there also was a slate could go slightly over, not a lot.
the amount of his
Let's say
contract.
I agree with you that considering the circumstances, it's odd that they didn't do anything to push
Yeah.
themselves into more solid ground because, as impressive as they've been, because I didn't see this coming personally,
Right.
they're
Not
not
really.
blocked by any stretch to make the playoffs.
I'm rooting
No.
for him though. I'm rooting for him.
Everyone's,
Like,
everyone's rooting for them.
yeah,
I mean,
I'm also rooting for Calgary too, and actually the entire Calgary community as well. Like what they did after they found out he passed, laying the flowers, his jersey, his sticks. Like it's hard not to root for like those kinds of communities that suffered a
Oh,
loss,
you
especially
can't
for
see
someone
them.
like Johnny.
You can't see them, but behind my flag, I still have the 2 sticks that sticks out. What's that? The term is sticks out. I have them there
Yeah.
still.
Yeah,
I think
All
Columbus
season.
makes it. That team just looks motivated. That's a team that really is playing at another level. Calgary's case, I hope they make it too, but I feel like they've just been carried. Like
nope. Especially with Columbus, who I think is driving that wagon too, especially with the loss to Johnny. I bet you it's Sean.
I agree.
I bet you it's
Monahan,
Sean.
yeah,
For sure.
like his best
Yeah,
friend.
I bet you Monahan is driving and being like, guys,
That was
this
the whole reason
this
he went
means
there.
something. Let's go.
Yeah, that was the whole reason he went there was Johnny Hockey.
Yep.
Yep.
That's what
I know
signed.
that guy's going in extra gear, and you've had so many guys that have taken a step forward for them this year. Look at Adam Fantilli. Yes, he had a hat trick in the friggin' game against the Rangers. Like,
Yeah. Well, the Rangers
Wow.
have fallen from grace.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still right in it. I'm not going to close them. The
It was
book on
probably
them yet.
Shesterkin.
By the way, worst GM of the year goes to Chris Drury. Can we agree to that?
Yeah. I mean,
Like, complete scumbag.
I gotta say,
up there.
I gotta say he's probably tied with whoever it is in Anaheim. What's his name again? It's not a good situation
Pat
there.
Verbeek, huh? Isn't it? Pat
Yeah,
Verbeek?
because
actually,
that
Kevin
locker.
Adams. Kevin Adams.
Yeah,
Let's not
that's a
sleep
good
on
one
him.
too. In Anaheim, the locker room is horrible. The coach there is horrible. I can't understand why he's still there. Players are complaining about it. Like players that
Why
live
is-
there.
Why Pat Verbeek is still there?
Yeah, I don't understand why both of them are still there. So
Pat Verbeek
I'm looking for a head coaching job. Ryan and I are looking.
Pat Verbeek is what?
Hire
is
Well,
a
hire
legend.
Ryan and I. We'll be vibe captains.
Pat Verbeek is a legend. Doesn't mean he's going to be a good GM.
Ryan's gonna be like, I will deal. He's gonna go to Kent Hughes and be like, I will deal you Trevor Zegras for a 5th round pick and a pack of Cheetos. No insider trading whatsoever.
Got to be the crunchies though. I like.
Oh, crunchy. Okay, crunchy. I got it. Yeah, that's top dollar too.
No, I agree that being a legend doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be good in the front office. I mean, Wayne Gretzky was Wayne Gretzky on the ice and shit behind the bench, right? So
Yeah.
But you
Bob
obviously.
Gainey.
I like Bob Gainey as a GM. I mean, he wasn't perfect, but I don't think he was a tire fire.
Rick might disagree with you on that one.
He wasn't. No.
Patrick
Okay,
Roy.
I'll agree with that. Like he wasn't a tire fire, but I mean, I love Bob Gainey. Real, I love the guy as a player. He was great. I don't know that he was the best GM. That's how I put it. I don't think he was the best GM. He wasn't a tire fire though.
I mean, I think he helped construct the team that Bergevin inherited that made the Eastern Conference Final.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But in all honesty, fellas, not as entertaining of a trade deadline as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And like the last minute, there were a few things like the Marchand one that was a shock. A lot of people thought he was safe. The Rantanen, debacle that was just leading up to everything that was crazy, and a lot of the quiet teams and Rick, Ryan, you guys alluded to it, like the prices were nuts, and so it I don't know, it's kind of disappointing. One thing I did like though that Eric Johnson went back to Colorado. That's one trade
That
I
was
like.
cool. I'm happy Briere did him a solid there.
Yeah.
A guy like that, 37 years old. He's got one last run in him. I mean, I will say from a selfish perspective,
I think he stepped in as one of the captains too when Landeskog was out when they won.
He's a former Cup champion there. He played the large majority of his career in Colorado before going to Buffalo.
He's going to retire. He's
retiring.
This
is probably his last year. I agree with that. And you know what? I like EJ a lot. The only thing is I can't root for them because we have Colorado's first round pick. But I will say I'm happy he has the opportunity to at least go for one more run.
Yeah, but my favorite trade throughout the entire day, I think you guys know what it is. Peter Mrazek. He's back in Detroit. Fucking bum. Loser.
Any trades there that we didn't talk about yet that anybody wants to sort of bring up?
I don't know if there were any Beauvillier went to Capitals. Yeah. Oh, well, I just want to touch on them. Oh, I love it. I'm kind of also pulling for them too.
Who?
Oh, the Capitals. Ovechkin is 9 goals away from breaking Gretzky's record, and he could potentially do it in less games too. That's just bonkers.
Here's the funny thing about that. I just saw the stats. They're almost at the same amount of games played. Ovechkin's just I think 16 games less than Gretzky, and he's 9 goals off.
What are you saying?
Yeah.
All right, do you think that he'll hit on the same game number?
Well, I mean, ultimately, Gretzky goes down in history as the better player, so it doesn't really matter to me personally. As a Canadian, I find myself in a weird position where I'm not really necessarily pulling for Gretzky anymore based
No,
on
exactly. I'm glad you went there. Me too. I like.
Sam has his hand up.
Yeah, I have a question. Rick, can you get your fucking ears checked? Because I think you're like a parakeet with me tonight. You just keep like reiterating the same shit that I'm saying.
What did I do now?
You're just like, yeah, doesn't he have like the same, like just about the same games played? And I'm
Oh,
just
I
like,
didn't
yeah,
hear you
he's
say
gonna.
that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say that.
I yield
Oh,
back my
dear.
time, counselor.
I'm
yield-
sorry,
I yield.
Cam. Didn't mean to hurt you.
I think that's like the 5th time tonight. He said the same thing.
I mean,
Like,
it's
it's
crazy.
break, right?
what can I say?
It's okay.
Um,
I get to work with him every week, Ryan. It's always a pleasure working with Rick. Part of it's
Doesn't
he
sound
bullies
like
me.
it. Doesn't sound like it.
Stop it.
All right, children, settle down.
Stop it. Oh, come on, Rick. You direct hibernation. I have no choice to love you because
It's the
you sign my
ring.
paycheck. You don't have a
No.
ring. Oh God, no.
It's
Put the wrinkles.
pretend.
No, put the wrinkles away, buddy. Get some
I can't.
Aveeno.
That I can't do. I'm sorry.
Get some Aveeno. Trust me, it works.
I get the iron out.
All right, that was funny. No, it's a pleasure working with Rick. Right? He teases me, I tease him. Except he teases me more offline than online. So
I mean, I think I got the gist of the dynamic of the relationship here.
Yep.
I got
Unbeliever.
yeah. Now I'm just Yep.
I'm God.
I did not get that.
he's the voice. Yeah, he's the voice of God on
I'm the voice
hibernation.
of God. Yeah. On
we
the
have a full
podcast.
We have a full cast and everything. Like
I'm
tryouts
the
are next
director, so I'm the voice
He's
of
a
God.
director of Flyer too, to be fair.
Yes.
week. And
Where's
Matt's
the
just
applause? How
over there.
come
I
I
don't
don't hear
know.
any sound effects? Applause.
you,
sound
you
effects?
get out of your own ego, buddy.
Sorry.
I know. Any
All
other
right,
top?
no, we interrupted. I think we interrupted Ryan in mid thought. No.
I was just going to say that as a Canadian, I find it hard to, root against Ovechkin just so that Gretzky can hold on to whatever semblance of that record he has left based on recent events.
And anyways, at this point, as close as he is, doesn't matter how much you don't want it to happen. It's happening.
It's going to happen, but I'm just
It's
saying,
happening. Yeah.
as we've established, Ovechkin can do it in less games. And
Maybe. Okay, so that's a question. He's got 16 games to go to tie it in games. Does he do it in that time? Because he's got, I think, 18 games left.
It's possible.
I
It's
think
possible.
But based on how, I have full disclosure, I have Ovechkin in my pool, and I've been paying extra close attention to the Capitals box scores, and it just seems like the Capitals are doing whatever they can to give him the
Empty netters.
Yeah.
So,
I just hope that's not how it happens, though. You
On an
really
empty
don't want
netter.
it to be empty
Yeah.
netters. Like,
I don't give two shits as long as I get my points in my pool. And honestly,
Yeah,
he had his fair share of empty netters in his career, so it doesn't
True.
really.
That's true. That's fair enough. But still, I think that's a kind of. I hope that's not how he gets it.
if it's the goal, I don't want the goal that breaks it to be like a gimme. That's like just the one thing I do. I hope it's like what hockey fans want to see, a good goal where he can really celebrate and something like that. That's a huge milestone.
Appropriately would be from his office on a one-timer on the power play.
Yeah, I told you once he hits
It'll be
3
against
goals.
us.
No, I told you once he hits 3 goals away from it, I'm tuning into every Capitals game because I want to witness it.
Agreed.
I'm just saying, I don't think it really matters. This may be an unpopular opinion, but I'm not exactly the goal that Gretzky scored to pass Howe. I don't like that was kind of a garbage goal, wasn't it? And
I think you're right. I kind of think you're right.
Like there was no tomorrow, and no one really thought anything of it.
No, okay. It's not that we think. At least for me, I don't think anybody's going to think less of it. I'm just saying, for me, I would like it to be something more special than just.
Everyone wants that, but no one really cares in retrospect.
No, of course, though. You're right.
I think Ryan just doesn't really care. He just goes, "Fuck that guy. I just want my point.
I just want to win my pool. I want to win the pool."
That's how I think. I thought we've established that.
That's fair enough. All right. So are we at the are we done? Anybody got anything to add? I guess not. Cam, take us out, Cam.
I was about to say how depressed I was about Marchand. You're
Well,
gonna
then
make the
you
you're
told
gonna
us-
make the espresso depresso guy take you out.
Take us out depressed. Then what can I say?
Thanks for joining Pucking Around podcast. It's been a great time. No, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for episode whatever number we're on tonight. I don't remember. We've had so many.
60.
60. Oh, good. That was an
Big
even
number
number.
alert.
I should know that. That's Rick's age. No,
Well,
guys,
I'm
thank you
older,
guys.
actually.
Even when I try to give you credit, you do it to yourself.
I found out today I'm older
You
than
do
the
this to
Canadian
yourself.
flag by 3 years.
You do this to yourself.
Listen, Canadian flag, February 14th, 1966, I think. I was born February 14th, 1963. I'm 3 years to the day older than the flag.
I mean, we believe you. You don't need to
Oh,
brag about that.
okay. It's not bragging or not, but whatever.
Thank you for joining our history lecture today.
There you go. Well, that's the, Vogel's interesting fact. There you go.
Thanks everyone for joining episode 60 of the Pucking Around podcast. We love all of you out there who support us. Don't forget to check out don'tpuckwithmedia.com. That is don'tpuckwithmedia.com for all of our blogs. Check out our other stuff on Don't Puck With Media on our YouTube. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Very special thank you to our guest Ryan from the Hockey Writers. He took some time out of his day to join us. Ryan, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on here, man. We hope to have
Thank
you
you,
back
Ryan.
another time.
We'll have you back if you.
Thanks for
want to
interrupting
go
me,
on.
Rick. I was really going on. I
Yeah.
was killing it, man. You fucker. And anyway, thanks to our director Rick for being the best director in the world. Our buddy Alex and our buddy Matt, who's not paying attention, is on his phone right now.
Call out.
Actually, no, my phone's right there.
I am Goosey, and we are out of here. Good night, everybody.
Ciao, everybody.
Good night, everyone.